Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar on AI leverage against the machine. My name is Sasha Padbidri. I'm one of the deputy editors at LevFin, and I'll be your moderator for today. While everyone today is focused on AI's massive infrastructure demand and data center boom, today I thought we would deviate a little bit from the conversation and dive deeper into how AI is fundamentally reshaping leverage finance. But before we get started, I'd like to just go over a few housekeeping items. I hope you don't have any technical difficulties, but if you do, please feel free to message us using the webinar console so we can get your problems worked out quickly. The slide and session recording will also be emailed out to registrants within 48 hours of this webinar, and we will have a Q&A session following today's fireside chat. So if you have any questions for Karen, please feel free to submit them via the webinar console. Also, last but not least, if you're interested in learning more about LevFin, please complete the survey at the end of the session. And with all of that out of the way, I would love to introduce our speaker, Karen Bazard. So Karen leads the Markets Innovation Group at A&O Sherman, and she's led the firm's groundbreaking deployment of Harvey's AI platform back in 2022. She also played a key role in developing Contract Matrix, which is A&O's proprietary generative AI contract draft tool, which, was built in partnership with both Microsoft and Harvey. So Karen also advises businesses on safe AI deployment while maintaining her expertise in corporate finance and transactional law. Again, with all of that out of the way, Karen, thank you so much for giving us your time and, participating in today's fireside chat. I'm, eager to dive into all of these new developments with you. So just to kick off, can we just tell the audience first how new is the AI practice and how long have you been advising LevFin clients on AI developments?
I'm super excited to be here today. This is like the intersection of all of my expertise. So I'm a leverage finance lawyer by trade. I practice in the field, but I do, as you said, lead our AI space, and that's where I spend most of my time. We have a dedicated AI group, and I would say on a formal basis, that really didn't come together until early in 2023. But we have been advising clients in the Markets Innovation Group that I am part of for almost, going back almost 10 years. So we've always been looking at ways to innovate and drive technology combined with the law. From a leverage finance perspective, we're really looking at how AI is going to reshape the industry, things like diligence, covenant monitoring. How can we add value to some of the low value tasks, but still have that high caliber of legal services?
Got it. It's crazy that, you said you've been doing this for almost 10 years, even though it seems like AI has only been it's only made the headlines recently over the last 18 to 24 months. With that said, what's the most common question or concern you've had from LevFin clients about AI, and has that sort of changed over the last few years?
Yeah, I would say definitely across the board, clients, LevFin, non-LevFin, the biggest concern is the reliability and the hallucinations, right? Everybody's heard those headline stories. And I think there's a fear that, practitioners, lawyers, at least from our perspective, will accept an output from an AI system and not really critically review it, right? So you need the professional, in my case, a lawyer, to review what the AI says, contextualize it, and challenge it. So, we put policies in place to kind of build in human verification and, make sure that the professional judgment is there.
Got it. So, just out of curiosity, which sectors or industries within leverage finance have been most affected by AI? And do you, see a growing concern that AI technologies would maybe cause product or job displacement?
So I would say that my personal belief is that almost every company is becoming an AI-enabled company at this point. It's pervasive. So I would shift that question a little bit and say maybe the distinction is not sectoral but functional in the leverage finance space. So I'm thinking we're going to see re-engineering of how you might pricing models, like using AI. maybe using predictive analytics. Definitely would say back office functions. You'll see streamlining of, getting the information from loan documents or, into operational systems. That's definitely been a struggle historically. And then maybe building real-time monitoring tools, right? Covenant compliance tools. These are where I think things will go. At this juncture, my belief is that AI is not yet a staff reducer, just because of what I had said before. You do still need that human interaction with it. And leverage finance is really complex and really hinges on human judgment, regulatory insight, negotiation skills, right? There's just human talents that are indispensable. But what I do think is going to happen, and I'm starting to see this even in the law firm space, is maybe a shift in skill sets. So for instance, we have certain lawyers, some of our kind of high AI users who are leading the charge, who are becoming prompt engineers, who are use case developers. And they're kind of doing that along with their legal work. I think you might see a shift in skill sets and maybe roles nearer term.
Got it. Just to rewind a bit, could you unpack what a prompt engineer is?
Yeah, so the real key to AI and harnessing it is around prompting it, and being able to really effectively prompt an AI system. Now, most people for their day to day, when they want to plan a vacation or just do something simple, that's really, you don't need too much training. But if you really want to do some really critical thinking or interrogating of, let's say, of a document, you really need to be able to present the prompt in a way that is most effective for the AI. And so, we have people who, are really good at that and have studied. There are, you can go out there and read articles. There are studies about it, about how, best ways to harness AI. And there's even for different systems, there are different, better ways to prompt different systems.
Got it. Understood. And then just to go back to what you said about, I guess, like pricing models and loan documents, I'm just wondering, has there been any sort of development of AI risk factors or language in, deal or debt documents? Do you think that's going to become, is that going to become something we'll see in future transaction documents?
We're definitely seeing a trend in the offering memorandums, right? So if you're high yield, for instance, in LevFin, but risk factors generally, you'll see risk factors now about AI risks on models, data biases, litigation, regulatory uncertainty, cybersecurity. So we're definitely seeing an uptick in AI related risk factors for companies. On the covenant side, haven't really seen much. There's been talk about some AI specific undertakings or maybe enhanced reporting where there's a really heavy emphasis for a company on, proprietary algorithms or, high emphasis on AI for a company, but haven't really seen the developments. I definitely think we're starting to see some people talk about diligence frameworks, questions on diligence, about use of AI, heightened questions on diligence around cybersecurity and use of AI and data privacy laws. But I do think you might eventually see, and this is where, the space is will this make its way into the loan docs, maybe a rep, something like that. Like I said, we are seeing it in the risk factor space, less so in the kind of, let's say, covenant rep space, undertaking space. I just think at the end of the day, this is significantly evolving the business risk here from a competitive landscape, operational, ethical, legal, cyber. So I just think this is 100% a space to watch.
Absolutely. And, speaking about risk factors, like that must be tied to regulatory developments. And I don't know, I know that in Europe, at least, that there is a set of laws on AI. It doesn't really seem to have materialized here. So I'm just wondering, what regulatory development should people be looking out for? And do you think it's possible that the US will develop a similar framework to the EU?
Yeah, so let's unpack that. That's a big question. So
Sorry, that was
US
a double
policy,
whammy.
yeah, US policies focus probably on, protecting consumers, data privacy for sure, and critical use cases, but and you might see the critical use cases in the regulatory realm, but as with data privacy laws in the US, what we're seeing is a fragmented approach across states, even a little bit across federal agencies. So I think market participants really need to be looking at this patchwork of overlapping rules. And I think, unfortunately, I don't see that changing. I don't see us getting a single kind of EU type framework. That's just not how the US legislative landscape has evolved. Again, that's my personal opinion. I am hopeful that maybe we'll get a bit of harmonization across federal agencies. So maybe some interagency guidance, transparency, and testing. That's where my hope lies on that front. But yeah, I just don't see the EU type framework coming into place in the US.
Got it. And just to shift away from that, I'm just curious, back to, in the context of A&O, in the legal arena, how is AI changing your job? And I was just wondering if there was any sort of pushback from your firm when you first decided to implement Harvey.
I absolutely love the way AI is changing my job personally. I went to law school to be a critical thinker, to really spend my time analyzing and doing the work that I love. I love kind of thinking through, I'm a nerd, right? I love thinking through a covenant and how it might impact a company. And I think that AI has eliminated a lot of the manual work that goes alongside the legal. There's just a lot of administrative tasks that lawyers are doing when they're drafting, and really AI can assist you to devote your time to the structuring, the negotiation, the real deep risk analysis, because it's taking away some of that manually exhausting administrative tasks. So I would 100% say that I've just seen a real shift in that. And I think once our lawyers start using it, it's the only tool I've ever seen where it's like where we gave it to lawyers, and if we took it away, I feel like they would be remiss. That being said, we always had those skeptics, right? There's always going to be those skeptics, the hallucinations, the risk. Obviously, lawyers are very risk averse, so the risk is very scary. But I would actually say, come over time, once you get people to touch it, feel it, understand our policies. We have a really strict training risk program. Almost every lawyer at A&O Sherman can explain to you what hallucinations are, why they are, and why we have these rules. And we've really seen a shift, and even partners now are using AI in their, practice. Partners that I would never have expected. So it's often like I'd say, before you are a naysayer, give it a shot and see, what benefits it can give you. And so I've seen a shift from like anxiety to now I go to the water cooler, right? And people are like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about how I used AI the other day, Karen, right? That's not to say, we're still always monitoring the risks and making sure we're addressing them and, keeping ahead of any concerns.
Got it. Like it, even if the lawyers are using AI, I'm just wondering, do you have clients that would absolutely never touch AI or have been like more risk adverse than lawyers on AI?
Yeah, definitely. We had some clients, and I would say it was mostly pre generative AI, right? Because there were other AI systems out there before generative AI kind of became all the rage. There was a bit of, don't use it in some of our engagement letters. We're still getting a little bit of that, or don't use it without talking to us. And I would say for the most part, when we take our clients through the safeguards we have, we're able to get them comfortable with our AI setup and how we go about it, right? How we protect their confidential information and so on and so forth, and all of our protocols. And so I would say the trend is we are able to move them away from that because, at the end of the day, they want to have the efficiency gains without, with our critical thinking combined with that. So, if you can kind of get the protections and the assurances from your law firm that they're using it in a safe way and they understand the risks, I would say, go for it because you're going to get the benefit of the cost savings and time savings that you probably want coming from your law firm.
Got it. That's really interesting. Just out of curiosity, because this, like what you said earlier, we're in such a not preliminary, but we're such an early stage of where AI is disrupting LevFin. So if anyone from our audience wants to, get in touch and, talk to you about it or tap into your expertise, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so as mentioned, I do run our US AI practice, and we have a tool called Contract Matrix. And I think I'll ask Sasha, maybe you guys can send this around with the email after, but we have a kind of a support line at contract matrix _support at aosherman.com. We can send that around. That will direct your query to our central AI leadership team. And so even if it's maybe somebody's tuning in from Europe, we have team members in Europe, we have team members all over the place. It can route it to the right person. That being said, I am up on our firm's website. So look up Karen Bizard at A&O Sherman and you will see me there. And of course, you can always just, shoot me an email letting me know that you were here and then I can direct you to the right place. But I think what we probably will do is send around the A&O Sherman support one. That way it can get routed and more quickly than coming into my inbox.
Got it. With that, should we just go over to Q&A? I already see a bunch of questions in there. Karen, somebody is asking if big law firms will eventually slow down on junior associate hiring, specifically in transactional or corporate departments because of this AI drafting technology.
To date, not yet. So here's an example though, right? I have associates in my group right now. So those are the associates who are starting to shift towards kind of a hybrid AI plus legal practice. Interestingly, they get exposure to all different practice groups because we're supporting the AI across the firm. So I don't think just yet the timing, isn't there. Again, this is my personal opinion. I think, as I said, with the leveraged finance space, I think you're going to see a shift in the way people, certain roles, but again, evolving space, maybe that answer changes in a couple years, but, my opinion is not yet.
Got it. I'm just gonna let the Q&A thing refresh and see what else we have. But if anyone in the audience has questions, please use the webinar console to send it in.
Sasha, it looks like some people have placed some in the Q&A or in the chat function.
Oh, okay.
See them, right. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see them. Let me read them.
Okay, I can do the first question. So Karen, you mentioned A&O was the first firm to deploy generative AI at an enterprise scale. What was the business case that convinced your partners to take the leap? Was there internal resistance? What's been the most surprising client concern about AI that you didn't anticipate when you started this practice? Okay, so let's start with the first one. So we really luckily got exposure to Harvey AI, which is a legal generative AI model based on OpenAI's models in the fall before. So if everybody remembers in February, because 2022, there was an announcement by OpenAI, and that's when all the rage started. That fall, we got exposure to Harvey, and really quickly it came to our team, we realized what a game changer it was. And so what we did is we rolled it out in sandboxes, small groups of people testing testing small use cases, identifying risks, coming up with rules on how to use it. By that December, we had many users, and we always say that over the holiday period where, very few people often are, using tools, there was just hundreds and hundreds of prompts going in, and we were amazed, right? All of a sudden, this tool we could see the uptick so quickly. And as I mentioned, I think this was the first tool that we ever saw that we thought, oh my gosh, if we take this away from people, they are really going to they're not going to be happy. I think it really didn't take much convincing, because once we showed people what it was doing, they were amazed. And it was really about focusing on making it so that we can safely and securely deploy it without, kind of the risk. So we had by February developed a risk management system, all kinds of rules around it, training. And so, we announced kind of almost simultaneously with those February announcements that we had deployed it globally. And again, it was a lot of, talking to different practice groups, making sure they understood the risks and rolling it out in a really safe and slow way, not just blasting it out. There's a question. I thought what's been the most surprising client concern about AI that you didn't anticipate when you started this practice? Honestly, we had some clients who were coming to us and pushing the boundaries on, like, why are you not using it more? That actually surprised me. Why aren't you using it here? Where they've identified use cases, pushing, and I think we really do use it pretty effectively, but pushing us to use that more. I didn't expect that pressure from some of the clients, to be honest.
Were they tech clients just out of curiosity, or were they just like non-tech focused businesses?
Some are, some aren't. Some, I would say a couple of them are, yeah, for sure. But some are probably just looking for the cost, right? Everybody's looking for cost reductions. And, for a long time, I think law firms have been pushed to, look at their pricing models, right? And so I think that's maybe a bit of the drive.
Got it.
I'm going to standardization of risk factors. Listen, I think like any drafting in any space, there's always kind of the first time somebody has to draft it from a blank screen, but I would say from there, people don't draft from scratch. Any good lawyer is going to take a look at what's out there on risk factors and then just tailor it to the company. So I think you are definitely seeing an evolution, and I did see some standardization. I actually, before this, had taken a look at a couple OMs and a couple 10Ks to look at the risk factors. And yeah, you are seeing the same kinds of risk factors then tailored specifically to a company. So I would say that if you're looking for standardization, then I would, say that. Again, I haven't seen there's a question about, reps warranties and such. I haven't really seen that. I think that's the space to watch more. There's talk about it. And again, I may not have seen it, and it may be in a, private deals that I may not have seen. I'm sure there's some drafting out there, but I think that's the space to watch: reps, warranties, covenants, drafting. And then I guess the last question here is, what skills are you telling your junior lawyers to develop to stay relevant in the AI enhanced legal environment? I think the best thing to tell junior lawyers is to always be critically thinking about every task. So when you sit down to do something, a lot of times the senior lawyer will say, do it this way, because that's how we did it. And we don't, we're not thinking AI all the time. So think through, is there a way to do this more efficiently or use AI kind of on each of these tasks? And then, discuss it with the partner, but I think it's really trying to think through different ways to harness AI in each of the tasks that you're endeavoring to complete. Are there, I don't think I see any more questions.
Madeline, do we have any more questions?
I'm not seeing any on my end.
Okay.
There's some really good questions.
Yeah. If anyone else has any more questions, last call to type it in here. And I don't see any more questions. Yeah, I guess basically that's pretty much it. Karen, thank you so much for, taking the time to educate all of us on AI. I think, this is definitely something that we should all keep an eye out on, because I'm sure, even I might be coming back to you with more questions in the future on it.
Happy to talk about it. It's my favorite topic. And thank you so much for having me. And thanks, listeners, for listening in.
Yeah. Thank you everyone who took time out of their busy schedule to join us, and we hope you found this webinar informative.
Thank you.